This synagogue is a powerhouse. Out of it comes the light of truth, the warmth of religious fellowship, the flaming ideals that transform society, the power that leads to social improvements. These were the words that Rabbi Robert I. Kahn said at the dedication of this building in 1949. Building on the ideas of Rabbi Leo Beck, Rabbi Kahn describes the synagogue using the image of a power station. He continues, "This is a powerhouse, and out of it there go high-tension lines to every other house in the community, into the house we call home with its powerful message, honor your father and mother. Into the schoolhouse, teach them diligently unto your children. Into the market house and the counting house, you shall have just weights and measures. You shall not lie, nor steal, nor defraud your neighbor. Into the courthouse, justice shall you pursue. Even into the White House, when he is seated upon his throne, he shall have a copy of this Torah. Let him read it all his life, that he may act not haughtily towards his fellow or deviate from the law." Rabbi Kahn imagines power lines connecting this building to all the institutions of our daily lives, energizing the whole city with the electric power of spirit and ethics. He commends the founders of Emmanuel for constructing a building that could be the vital center of Jewish life and an incandescent beacon of hope. I was thinking of these words as I read this week's Torah portion, Parshat Trumah, which describes the very first time the Jewish people set out to build a vital center for their Jewish community. The parsha begins with God's commandment, "Ve'asuli mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham." Let them make me a sanctuary that I might dwell among them. The Israelites are to build the Mishkan, the portable structure that will serve as their sanctuary in the wilderness. This is where they will come to offer sacrifices and supplications, to celebrate holidays and joyous moments, to consult with God. This will be the Israelite spiritual home, the very first synagogue. To build such an important space, the Israelites will need an abundance of materials: gold and silver, yarn and linen, animal skins and acacia wood. It's quite the expansive shopping list. And there isn't a hardware store in sight. But God has a plan. "Tell the Israelite people to bring me gifts. You shall accept gifts from me from every person whose heart is so moved." Building the Mishkan would require that all the Israelites bring their gifts. Some have gold and others have silver. Some have wood and some have fabric. Some have time and some have talent. And the Mishkan can only be completed when everyone brings the offerings from the depths of their hearts. Just over a week ago, Emmanuel announced publicly our new building project, a plan to expand our community's Mishkan. We will build on the vision of Rabbi Kahn and our founding families so that our congregation can continue to be a source of spiritual power for decades to come. This is why we are calling our capital campaign Lador Vador, from generation to generation, building on our past and the work of the generations before us as we plan for our future and the generations to come. And just like the building project of our ancestors in the wilderness, we are asking for your gifts to ensure that future. So what can we learn from the building projects of the generations that came before us that informs what we seek to build over the next few years? What is a Mishkan? What allows a synagogue to be the power station that energizes the community? As Rabbi Kahn pointed out in his dedication sermon, the word synagogue is actually Greek. It means coming together or assembly. It's a translation of the Hebrew, a Beit Knesset, a house of meeting, connection, and encounter. The Mishkan in the wilderness was also called the Ohel Moed, the tent of meeting. One might think that this means it's a place for encouraging and encountering connection with God. And it is. We come to this sacred space to encounter God. It is a place for theological seeking and spiritual yearning. That's why our congregation has built both awe-inspiring and intimate spaces for worship. But you will note that there are no new sanctuaries in the Emmanuel expansion plan. There is a strange oddity in the sentence I read earlier, Ve'asuli mikdash v'shachanti b'tocham. Build for me a sanctuary that I might dwell there. You would expect that the singular mikdash, sanctuary, would be paired with bitocho, I'll dwell in it. But instead, God uses the plural, bitocham, in them. It might be more accurately translated as, build me a sanctuary that I might dwell between them, the Israelites. Martin Buber explains that God exists in the sacred interactions between people. He calls this encounter. He writes, Spirit is not the I, but between the I and thou. It is not like the blood that circulates in you, but like the air which you breathe. For Buber, God is present in the space between me and you. In every moment of meeting between two people, there is the possibility for divine encounter. God says, build me a sanctuary, bring your gifts to that place, and when you are all there, gathered together, you will notice me dwelling between you. A synagogue is a place for meeting, for people to come together across lines of difference. In a time when the Surgeon General has declared loneliness a public health crisis, a time of increasing polarization and isolation, a synagogue is a place that brings people together. People who might otherwise not have met. I think about the EE Votes Steering Committee that has been working since 2020 to make Emmanuel a 100% voting congregation. It's a group of women, until very recently it happened to be all women, who came from different walks of life. There was a mix of ages and life stages and years of membership at Emmanuel. On that committee was someone whose parents were married by Rabbi Khan in 1948, the year before this building opened, and someone who had joined the congregation just the year before. At a meeting shortly after their first election cycle, I asked them if there was anyone at the table who they'd not known before they started on the committee. Everyone at the table had met someone new through the work. In fact, most of those women had not known any of the other women at the table before they started their work as a committee. And they came together to do powerful, transformative work that moved the needle on our congregation's civic participation and which gave the leaders a sense of meaning and purpose. One of my favorite features of the new building is that there are a number of areas specifically designed for what Rabbi Hayon has called sacred encounter. There will be comfortable chairs and beautiful artwork designed to invite people to sit and be together. Our hope is that in these spaces, a father and a child headed to religious school might encounter a grandma who is just leaving mahjong. A person sitting to catch up on some emails before a committee meeting might look up and spend a few minutes talking to a conversion student on their way to a basic Judaism class. And in these moments of sacred encounter, God's presence will be felt reverberating through the community. And our new building will not just be a Beit Knesset, a house of meeting, but also a Beit Midrash, a house of learning. In his dedication sermon, Rabbi Khan also referred to the synagogue as a storehouse in which are preserved all of the best of all that our people have ever discovered. There is a midrash on the building of the biblical Mishkan that tells this parable. A king's only daughter, a princess, marries a man from a far-off land. And soon the husband asks her to move back to his homeland. The old king says to his new son-in-law, I am saddened. I cannot bear to see my beloved daughter go, and yet I would not ask you to stay away from your home. So let me ask you this one favor. Wherever you live, prepare a chamber for me that I might dwell with you. The Midrash says that the king is God and the daughter is the Torah. God is happy to give the Torah to the Israelites, but God will miss it like a beloved child who moves away. And this is why God commands the building of the Mishkan, so that wherever we go and wherever we take Torah, God can dwell there too. Thanks to a generous lead gift, our new building will be known as the Gerald B. Katz Family Center for Jewish Learning. It will be a place that celebrates the study of Torah. Learners of all ages will have many spaces to encounter the great ideas of Jewish life, spaces that are modern and dignified, spaces that are bright and joyful, spaces where the indelible ideas in Jewish text and tradition can come to life. Rabbi Kahn's sermon also used the metaphor of the synagogue as a blockhouse, a frontier term for a small fortress that pioneers would build as soon as they established a new settlement. It was a place to return to in times of danger and distress. It was a place for the community to draw together in times of trouble. Our Mishkan also serves as a place where we can come when the world outside is turbulent. It is a place where we can feel safe and held in the arms of community as we process the tribulations of our lives and the tumult of the world. And while we never want our synagogue to feel like a fortress, we want people to know that when they come here, they will be safe. Our Vador campaign contains ample opportunities to improve our congregation's security so that we can make sure that this place remains a home for all who enter. The Mishkan would not have been complete unless all of the Israelites found in their hearts some gift to give, and our Vador campaign will not be complete without each and every member of our community's gifts. This past week, all our member families started receiving packets in the mail that share the details of the project and explain how you can get involved. Our goal is to reach 100% congregational participation by May. When Moses heard the long list of supplies that God would need to build the Mishkan, Moses was concerned. He asked God how this group of escaped slaves could possibly have enough of all these fancy materials to build such a beautiful and elaborate structure. God replies that Moses should have faith. God says, not only do the children of Israel collectively possess the necessary materials to build the Mishkan, but in fact, every Jew could do so single-handedly. There might be those among you who think that you cannot give enough to make a difference. But God asks that every Israelite give in a way that moves their hearts, and it's a reminder that each of us has something vital to give to the project. When you make a donation that is meaningful to your family, whatever the amount, that will be plenty. And together, all of those gifts will combine to create something beautiful, and you will be able to walk the halls of our new building knowing that it could not exist without you. I like Rabbi Kahn's images of the synagogue as a storehouse and a blockhouse in his dedication sermon from 75 years ago. But his image of the synagogue as a power station remains a perfect metaphor for us here in the energy capital of the world. Your gifts are the natural resources that power this plant, and they are renewable resources. That's the message that God teaches Moses when God says that each Israelite has enough to build a Mishkan. Today, the gifts we need come in the form of pledges. And in the future, when the new building is built, we will need your gifts again, of time and skill, the gifts of your attention and your openness to sacred encounter. Our predecessors gave their gifts to make Emmanuel what it is today. And it is your gifts that will make Emmanuel what it can be for generations to come. And with all our gifts combined, this place will be, as it has always been, a dwelling place for the divine. Shabbat Shalom.